Hi, everyone. Nice to see some familiar names and some new names. We'll get started in just a couple minutes here. Give people just a couple minutes, but I know that we had about 22 people registered. Some might log in a little bit late, but we'll get started right at 7. Hello to those just joining us. We're going to get started in just another minute. All right. We're up to 9, it looks like. Yeah, feel free to drop in the chat where you're calling in from. I always like to see where people are. And throughout the webinar, you can drop questions in the chat. Otherwise, we'll open it up at the end for any questions that you all might have. It looks like we have quite a few people that just joined. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you do want to share your video, you're welcome to do so. This webinar will be recorded. So just so you know, in case you don't want to share your video. Oh, and I think I'm going to mute. If you're not on mute, I'm just going to mute you quickly. Okay. And then if you do have a question, we'll open it up at the end for questions so you can unmute and ask your question. Until then, just drop it in the chat box and we'll try to answer your question as we go. Good to see that people are here from California, from Pennsylvania, all over the states. It's awesome. I wanted to introduce myself. So if you haven't already met me, I probably have met you either on a webinar or in person at one of the AFS events, maybe the summit or ECA. But my name is Julie. I've been with AFS for about 7 years. I'm the Director of Marketing and External Communications at AFS. And joining me tonight is Amy. Amy, did you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Anna Brendan Patel. I am the Senior Hosting Operations Manager. I see some familiar names. I'm sure we probably have emailed at some point during my time here. I've been with AFS. It's going to be 9 years in April. So I'm glad to see everyone here. Thank you for joining.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll get started here. But again, this will be recorded. So if you have a colleague wasn't able to jump on, or I know we have some staff that really want to view this webinar, we will post the recording on My AFS News. Without further ado, we'll be going over kind of the intro to student bios in case there's anyone new here to writing. We will be finding students needing bios, finding student applications. We'll be practicing kind of writing the student bio and how to complete the process, and again, where to go with questions. Amy and I are available. I've included our information at the end of this webinar, so you know who to go to for questions. You can also always contact marketing@afsusa.org, just kind of an easy thing to remember. Also ask AFS@afs.org or AFS-USA.org is always a good go-to email address if you have questions. But I'm going to launch a quick poll and I want to see if anyone has written bios before. We have some that are new and maybe you can't even remember. It's been so long, or, you know, it's been a long few years. Okay. Okay, actually, we have quite a few new bio writers. That's great. So I'm going to end poll and share the results. So yeah, we have definitely a considerable number of new bio writers. That's very exciting. It's one of the most fun things we can do, I think, as staff and volunteers, is learn about students and kind of promote them in this way. So what are student bios? Basically, they are a little blurb about the student that serves as a way for us to introduce these students to prospective host families. So it might highlight a student's interests. It definitely highlights a student's character, maybe where they're from, a little bit about how they grew up, or that they're close with their parents. Things like that are great to showcase in a bio. It really helps families get intrigued about a student. It's their first touch point. So they might have, seen some students on our Meet the Students tool. They might have, been on our website, learned a little bit about AFS, but this is really to make the experience real for them. So for an example, a student with a shared hobby, if they are, play tennis as a family and the student plays tennis, I think that's a really good hook. So keeping that in mind. These are some examples of our current student bios, and I will say that we're looking to revamp these bios. I've mentioned it a couple times in calls and at the summit last year, but if you're not aware, these are, I think, years old, this general sharing of like this type of branded page, but hopefully we'll have some new templates to share out soon to make it easy and to make it more, attractive as a promotional tool. And why are bios so important? This is, again, the first impression a family has of the student, and it might be paired with an audio file. So we do have some students submitting voice recordings introducing themselves. So if that's the case, it's a really powerful tool to, have in combination. But as the bio writer, you really want to put the student's best foot forward. So you're really doing them a service when you're talking about, the things that they enjoy, while finding a balance of like being honest and not, totally making things up. You definitely want to stick with what's in their application. So who can write bios? Starting last year, we actually made it possible for all hosting volunteers to write student bios. To be a hosting volunteer, you have to complete the HSA and DOS training. So if you're not a hosting volunteer, you can let us know. I believe your regional field specialist or your hosting coordinator, whoever's kind of your touch point for hosting on your team, is a go-to to assign that affiliation and complete those trainings. All of the bios are reviewed and approved before they are live. So bios are shown in multiple places. If you haven't been on My AFS, that's kind of like the volunteer tool portal, if you will, to find information around, the trainings that you have to take, things about your team. If you want to view students in the placement widget and find students that need a bio, Amy will kind of go over that. But it's a really good resource, and that's where you can see the bio attached to students. You can also see it in Global Link, but MyAFS is kind of a cleaner, nicer tool. And also on Meet the Students. So our current Meet the Students tool is also being rebranded and edited a bit, but the bios that you write, the first, snippet of the bio will show up on our website via that Meet the Students tool. So what you have to know as a bio writer is that, these bios will be reviewed and approved, but keep in mind that they will be widely shared, and they will be on our website in most cases. We never share identifying information of the student because they are being shared publicly, which is also why the bios and the crafting of them is so important, because you're really trying to get across who the student is without being able to use their picture or, maybe other things that might interest a potential host family. So starting in December of last year, students have been starting to be distributed, and they are nationally available. So that just means that they're available to be placed with host families across the country, across a lot of all teams. Teams will not get new students every week yet. I know that later on, as more students become available and their applications are distributed, they start being assigned to teams. But right now, all students are available across the country. And national bio writers are currently completing the bio. So this is what we used to do a few years ago, where bio writers would write the bios for nationally available students. So we would identify writers across the country that wanted to write bios. A lot of them would do it year after year. I see some are on the call. And last year we kind of did away with that because students were assigned to teams so quickly that the hosting volunteers assigned to those teams could just write the bio. So national bio writers weren't necessarily needed. They were needed within their own teams, but they weren't needed to write bios for like students assigned to other teams. And I know that we've also been asking our hosting operations team to write a few bios, and our hosting onboarding unit is helping to approve bios this year. So there are some adjustments. A lot is dependent on kind of like the capacity of the organization who has time to review and approve, but they're always reviewed and approved. And we always go back to see if any edits can be made. Bios are definitely a priority of the organization. And it's best practice to complete and submit bios within 3 days of being assigned. So if say you're a hosting volunteer right now, but you're not a national bio writer, you can let us know. There are a couple contacts that I'll share that, will assign you basically certain students each week if you are interested in writing bios right now. Otherwise, in the future, when we shift back to, the students are area team available or regionally available, then once you get students assigned to your team, within 3 days, they should have a bio if they don't already. And the sponsored programs team is also writing a lot of bios. So you won't necessarily need to write sponsored programs bios unless they need some help, which sometimes they do. And they're also nationally available sponsored program students at this time. So now I'm going to turn it over to Amy, and she's going to talk to us about finding students that need bios. Oh, and for some reason I can't hear you, Amy. I think it was kind of in and out before, but now it's maybe your headset's dead or something. No. Technical difficulties, one moment.
No.
Yes, now we can hear you. It paused.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks.
Sorry about that. All right, so yes, I'm going to go in and talking about how to find a student who needs a bio to be written, and there's 2 ways. There's My AFS and Global Link. So I'll go through both of them step by step. We're going to start off with My AFS, which, as Julie had mentioned, it's a little bit more cleaner and easier to find than through Global Link. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the AFS Global website, which is myafs.afsusa.org. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with it. You'll enter your username, your password, and then click in on the sign on button. Next page, please. Here you will go on to the left where the navigation is at, and you click on placements, which will bring out all the students that are available in your team. So make sure that it's clicked on My Team or all available, and then you could click into a student's photo to learn more about them. It will share more about who they are and where they're coming from and their status as well. Next, please. Okay. And then how would you know if a student needs a bio? So here there will be a little banner, I guess, right on the student's name that will says, this students need a bio, wanna help, click here to learn more. So once you see that banner, it means that the bio is needed for that student. And then in order to write the bio, you will scroll to the bottom of the page and then you click on View on Global Link, which will take you now to the Global Link section of the application for the student to start writing the bio, which will look like this. So you will go into the service case placement detail page, which is right here, and then you will click right under where it says bio sheet. And then it will bring you up to this page. And in this page, my team, the hosting operations team, will already have completed the top portion, which is the personal information. So that portion will be all filled out already with information that we have received when we're reviewing applications. Now, the bottom portion is what you will be doing. Here's where you will write, in the bottom is where you will write the bio under the biographical summary draft, and then you also will be adding the tags or the about student terms under right under where it says good to know. Next page, please. All right, now over to Global Link, which is kind of the same process. You will go on Global Link instead at the usa.afsglobal.org, and you will enter the same username and password that you would for My AFS, and then you will sign in to the Global Link section. Right here, once you get into Global Link, it will take you to this website, to this site, and then you'll click on Global Link, which will bring you to this more page where there's a lot of more to click on. So here you would have to put in some criteria, some search criteria in order to find the students in terms of who needs a bio. So you will make sure that on the left side in the purple kind of navigation, you go to hosted participant. Then you will click on the area team that you would like to, that is your area team. So your area team, you'll add that information there, and then you will also put placement progress area team available, or for this point, it'll be nationally available since you're writing for all. So even area team could be eliminated in this to get a brighter search of students who need bios. If you already know of a student who's assigned to you and you just want to look up their information, write their name directly, just put their first name and their last name and the English first name as last name. And then you can even add a filter if you like, what says bio status is blank. But again, if you already know the student that you'll be assigned, that you're already assigned to write a bio, you just need to put in their first and last name and click on search, and it will show up. And then once you put in the name, click on search, this will come up and you just have to go over to where it says placement, and you will open up that link. It will bring you back to the same page as it brought to the other one, which is the service case placement detail. And click on bio sheet. And again, back into the same section. Well, you see all of this as I shared before. The top portion will be done by my team, and then the bottom portion is where you will write the bio of the student along with their tags. All right, so now I'm going to go quickly. I'm going to go into find and reading a student application, review and adding tags, and writing a bio are the next steps in here. All right, so how to find an application. So in order to find the student's application, you will go from this bio page. You will return back to the service case placement detail page. Then here at the top right, you'll see where something that says placement info, which will be now. There you go. Or you can always click the back button on your browser. It will bring you back to this page again, and here you will click on PACS info, right on the top left. Yep. Next page, and then it brings you to the service case detail. Here, right, like midway into the page, it will say view application. It should be bold on white. Usually if it's grayed out, it means that the application hasn't been distributed, but in the case that you do see one, let someone know that you cannot view the application, but you were able, once you click on the application portion will show up. Thank you, next slide. Which will bring you to this, the printable version of the application. It will bring you to this page where you kind of see all the sections of the entire application. But to get the whole application, the PDF version, you're gonna go down to where it says printable version. Now, depending on the application, the printable version may be in two different locations. For these type of applications right here on the bottom, if you get a POM application is what we call it, which is like the newer student application, there's a section on the top of it, right under the student's information, where if you click view 1.3 application, it will take you directly to this page where it will do the same thing, where it used to be printable version. So just, it's also in blue. So it should be able to catch it. But there's 2 versions of student applications. Here, once you click on printable version, you will go over to click on print out forms, volunteer version, and it will all download into a PDF. So now you have the application in hand, you have downloaded it, you've opened it, and now you can review the student application. When you're reviewing the application, there are key documents or key sections that you should keep an eye out, where it's a lot of the times where the students will share a lot about themselves or someone else will share about the students. So it's good places to find and start writing down about the student to write the bio. So one of the key sections are the student statement, which could be the letter to the host family, or if it's the other application, it will be a series of questions that the students have to answer. There they share a lot about themselves, their hobbies, what they like to do, their day-to-day. So it's a good, or like their interests, or what they like to eat or do, hobbies. So it's a good section there to get a good grasp of the student as a whole. The next part is the academic record, especially the section where the teacher write about the student. Is usually on the 3rd page of the academic record, where a teacher or someone from the school, a school official, will write a little bit about the student. There is times where they do submit an official letter of recommendation, which will be a 1 page or half a page usually, but those 2 things are usually around the academic record section. The next thing is the parent statement. That is, if it's available, this parent statement is where they also share or answer questions or write a letter to the host family, just kind of describing their child. There's a series of questions they ask, or they write it in a letter, or they write it. You can see all the questions in a form. This may be available, may not be available. That is because this form is not a requirement. So there's times where it's optional. The parent might not even write it. So something to look out, but at times it's not there. Another thing is the photos. Students love sharing photos about themselves, especially the caption portion. A lot of the times you share a lot in the captions of the photos, so definitely keep an eye out there. The next one is the ELRF, which includes a handwritten part by the student, and usually it's of 3 or 4 questions they get to choose to write about in just a couple of sentences. So that's another place where they share usually the questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what is your favorite hobby or class? Something along those lines, where we get another good grasp about who they are as a student. And last but not least is the confidential placement summary, which is usually completed by a local volunteer in the country, and they offer insights about the student when they have interviewed them at their home. And if you see something, say something. If you see something that you feel like it's not, with the student, you feel that it's not a good view of the student, feel free to let someone know. All right, and now I'm passing over to Julie for best practices bio writing.
Thanks. Yeah, and I will say, I remember just in past years, sometimes it's hard to find a student if you're just assigned to them, like national bio writers are now. So sometimes there's misspellings upon entry. Maybe check just searching for last name or just searching for the first couple letters of each name. I know that was a common thing that bio writers faced. If there was a typo, you maybe try a couple different versions of the name when searching in Global Link.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add, there's times where you may review the entire application and you cannot get nothing from the application. That's what happened in the past, where everything has, I can see some people shaking their head and saying yes. There's times where a whole application is read and you still have not enough information to write that bio. If that is the case as well, please reach out to us so like that we could work and getting what we needed to get in order to write that bio.
Oh, and I see Terry's on the call, who's actually making bio writer assignments. So Terry, did you want to say anything? I saw your hand raised.
No, I was just trying to get on the thing. I'm late. I'm sorry, I'm late getting on. I have my nephew and his wife are due to have a baby any day, and they just called and said they're at the
Congrats.
hospital.
Oh, that's awesome.
Aw.
And it's a
Congratulations.
first. It's a first
Yeah.
for our family.
Aw.
Congratulations. Well, we're
Now, I just noticed, one of the things I do want to say is I noticed, like, when I'm assigning a lot of them, um, there's like, I don't see any bio. And then it could be 10, 15 minutes later, somebody will actually send me a message back. There's already a bio here.
mm,
So it could, unless it's one that hasn't been approved, so it's not showing, is the only thing I could think of that I told them. Or somebody, like today I was on trying to assign a bunch of them, and I was noticing a lot of them were already written. And I have a couple bio writers that said, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go in. If I see them, I'm going to write them. I'm like, please do.
maybe
And so that's
that's,
one of the, so
yeah.
that's one of the things I do like to do is before I send it out, I do look to see if there's a bio,
Okay.
but somebody's like really quick, which is nice.
Yeah, maybe the mystery
Yeah.
writer is on the call tonight. We'll know. But yeah, it is. I know that sometimes that it can be frustrating though, if someone has done all the research and might like be trying to write the bio and then it's already there. So yeah,
Yes.
maybe if you have an example the next time you run into that, because it should log for us, we can see who wrote the bios.
Yeah,
So we can
I
follow
usually
up.
can too if I go in the application, but
Got it.
I'm just looking at the bio that comes up first. I'm not actually going into
Right.
the application. So
Right.
the other thing is I'm thinking it could be written, but just not approved yet.
Right.
And they're going in to write it. But,
Right.
and I'm sorry, but today I did not get as many sent out. I'll get them out tomorrow morning. I got a new job
No
and
worries.
I had to tell my old employer I'm leaving them after 19 years.
Oh, that's always hard. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Carrie, for everything you do. It's a huge,
Oh,
I think
thank
it
you.
really helps when there's a volunteer also assigning the bios. And like, I just think, you guys know what you're facing. You are in the bios all the time. And to have a volunteer as kind of the primary lead, it's just such a, I don't know, I think it's great. So thank you for your role this year that you've
Thank
taken
you.
on.
I see
you.
several of the bio
Congratulations.
writers are on too.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's
So
good.
timing, because I'm just about to go into some best practices and things that we're seeing on the approval side.
Sounds good.
So let me go forward. So some of you actually might remember this training from previous years. We've used Emmanuel for the past few years as an example. I try to switch up some photos, but you'll notice that at the beginning of the bio, again, Amy's team fills out kind of the top area, but something you would need to do as a bio writer is assign tags, the about students tags. So these are important so that volunteers that are looking to place a student, that are pitching them to potential host families, know what the students are interested in and can easily search for the students in MyFS that might match a family's interests. So I would say don't overdo it. You don't have to have, 20 tags. Actually, that makes it harder to kind of, match a student with a family because it's almost overwhelming. But if you are as specific as possible, like with cello or singing choir, it might generate new ideas of where to promote the student. So if there's like a local band that, has members and they're interested in hosting a student, or, it leaves room for creativity. But definitely assign, I would say, at least 7 tags, or try your best to hit that like 7 lucky number mark, just so that there are enough options. Make sure to look at all of the headers, because there might be kind of hidden interests that you don't see. And yeah, familiarize yourself with the options. If you don't know they exist, it's hard to think about that as you're writing the bio and tagging interests for the student. And yeah, that's where you can find them in the placement details section that Amy showed. So this is right where you write the bios. So again, when you're looking through the application, I would even have, what I've done in the past is like a document open, a Word doc or a Google Doc, just making notes as you go, because that will make crafting your bio a lot easier. You can note things like interests, traits, or characteristics. if they're religious or not religious, any musical abilities, and sports is a big one. And as a volunteer, especially a hosting volunteer, you know what potential host families are looking for. So definitely highlight those things that you know would make the bio a stronger promotional material.
One of the other things I've done is I always connect when I email everybody for a bio. I also copy and paste the link into the email for them. But
Perfect.
I myself find that it's nice to be able to actually go, like you're doing, go into their application, even, because I mean, there's times their letter does not tell everything that they've actually have in their application. So it's nice to go in, look at the application a little bit, because you may find some great information in there that they left out of their family letter.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think Nancy actually just sent me another point. There used to be a no pork / halal. But there's also just a no pork. So make sure to read the entire application, I think is her primary point, and see if the student is actually requires halal or simply no pork, because there is a difference there and it might matter to a potential host family. So that's a good point, Nancy. Yeah, make sure you're reading the whole app. All right, so select and saving the tags. So, oh, I think did I go back? Oh no,
Julie?
already went through this. Yep, hi Jody.
So we are not obligated to provide halal for the students, just so that everybody knows. If the students want halal, that's sort of just a request.
True. Yep. Yeah. Good to keep in mind. Thank you for pointing that out, Jody. Okay. Yeah. And then you would basically save the good to know. So if you select the tags and then you're doing that without writing the bio, it's always good to save it just in case. You wouldn't want it wouldn't want to not save and then lose that information that you had already selected or input. So just make sure to save repeatedly. You can go back and input the bio information. And if you ever have an issue where you click save before all the edits are made, you can submit edits, and you can always contact us to say, hey, I submitted this without completing it, or I wrote this over because I clicked save too fast or something, or submit too fast. So again, I think I went over this too fast, but the tags matter because this is how people are searching for the student in the placements widget. So this is just showing you where volunteers can do that in the placements widget, which you've probably already seen. So writing the actual bio. So tags, again, can offer the basic outline. So that's why I say kind of note things in a running doc, so you can go through and make a little bit of an outline before actually writing or fleshing out the bio. Be as specific as possible, highlight some unique interests so that families maybe looking at multiple students aren't like, Paul likes to go to the gym, Susie likes to go to the gym. It's like, try to make it a little bit interesting, and be positive. So these are supposed to be, the first touch points between a family and the student. So we really do want to avoid any negative language, or if there is something that you want to get across in the bio to a potential family, see if you can put a positive spin on it. So just technicalities, the max number of characters is 600. So that's sometimes hard because you don't want to make it too short. You want, maybe 10 characters left over at the most. But we understand that it's very hard to restructure things to fit this character limit. So if you are writing in a different document, maybe a Word document, just make sure you're keeping character count in mind. And for consistency and fairness, we just want to make sure that the bios are all as great as they can be. So try to keep it to that 590, 600. It's kind of like a fun game. Like, how close can I get to 600 without going over? And make the first few sentences count. So again, on Meet the Students, those are going to be in even the new Meet the Students tool that we're going to be launching. The first two sentences are the ones that show before people can drop down to see the rest of the bio. So those are really the ones that will stand out to people, and what will kind of spark that interest. So try to make them as interesting as possible. Again, avoid identifying information. We really don't, these are going to be public, so we don't want anyone being able to find the student online. No town or city name, no last name. Those are kind of the primary ones. If you have questions on that, feel free to reach out to us. Overall feel. Okay, so I've mentioned kind of including facts related to hobbies and like family life, but you could also include things like, in the future, the student wants to, study science, or if they've provided any sort of additional information, that's really great to put in the bio, because I think it just shows that the student is ambitious and, why they're doing this exchange in the first place. I think it really comes through when written appropriately in the bio. We always say we're not trying to get the kids into college. So, don't put so much pressure on yourself that you're rewriting these bios over and over and over again. We want them to be positive. We want them to be, great promotional pieces. But again, we have, a lot to write. So we don't want them to be like, no pressure if you're struggling or for some reason need assistance. That's why we also review and approve them. So we can always add a sentence here, switch it up a little bit if you are struggling. Host families want to know everyday relatable things. So, I always use has traveled to 18 countries. That's cool. Loves to travel. That's great. But he loves animals of all kinds. That might speak to a US family a little bit more, or at least more families. Focus on strengths, personality. Again, if the teacher has written a statement, I love when we can include teacher statements, because usually they speak to the students' drive, or that they get along with their classmates. I think that matters a lot to families, because school is a big part of being an exchange student. And again, like if there's few interests listed, that might provide enough characters that you're fulfilling the requirement for the bio. Definitely limit how much you list about what they prefer in a host family. That is important, but that's also something that can be read and used by the volunteer when matching the family, because the volunteer making the placement is the expert. They're also supposed to be, reviewing the application, making sure that they're, they know the student that they are matching the family with. So if a family sees something in the bio and they're immediately turned off, this is more of a marketing piece. So we don't want to immediately turn away families. We want to convince them that, hey, even though this might not be the exact description of your family, you would still make a great fit. And we know that because we have years and years of experience placing students and matching them with families. The overall structure. So again, the first two sentences are very important. So maybe start with an interesting fact and use the student's name more than once. So this is a common thing that I feel like just writing a ton of bios you get into, and using the appropriate pronouns too. So the student might go by he, she, they, them. It's definitely going to come through in the application, hopefully. If not, just do your best. But definitely try to use a student's name at least twice. I would say maybe 3 times. It kind of breaks up the monotony of he, she, they, them. And vary your sentence structure. So instead of like the student enjoys riding horses, and then instead of kind of appending that with another fact, you would just start a new sentence. I have some examples, so I'll show you how to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more descriptive. And too many facts in one sentence. So while we do want like complex sentences, we don't want a ton of ands, and this and that, or comma, here are all the things a student is interested in with like 20 interests. That's a little bit too much. Instead, try to differ the language and alternate sentence structure. And again, like I mention this each time, just because sometimes it does come through that There's British English used in the application or in the host family letter. And maybe we transfer that to, you know, the language that host families are going to connect with the most. So instead of football, we change that to soccer. Instead of cinema, maybe the movies. Make sure to use the age upon arrival if including their age in their bio. That was something that our team that's reviewing the bios now had mentioned recently. So if you are using age, make sure it's like when they get here in the fall, that's their age. And write the last sentence to be specific to your team. That's actually from last year. So when students are area team assigned, we can go back and make that alteration. But for now, we're going to leave it broad because, again, these students are nationally available, so they can be placed anywhere. So instead of like last year when we did make them pretty area team specific, and I think that's great when we can do that, and there will be a time when we can do that again, make it more generic. So, you know, she'd love our hiking trails, I don't know, in the US. You know, you can still say she likes hiking and get that across, but it just won't be as locally specific, at least not at this time. So parallelism, sentences should agree with each other. This is like a little English lesson, I'm sure everyone knows, but it's something that we have come across in bios. So what I like to do is just run through these examples. So instead of he likes going skiing, books, and to horseback ride, just by saying it out loud, sometimes you can realize that it doesn't flow, it doesn't really read correctly. So again, you want to go, he likes skiing, reading, and horseback riding. So there's a gerund or ing word at the end of each. She enjoys spending time outdoors and animals. Instead, maybe she loves animals and enjoys spending time outdoors. Megan likes spending time outside in summer, winter, and during the fall. Instead, you would rephrase that to be Megan likes spending time outside in the summer, winter, and fall. So saying things aloud sometimes makes you realize that you do need to kind of switch up the sentence structure a little bit if it sounds off. Yeah, I think that that's pretty straightforward. So avoid things like is known or is said to be friendly. Instead, just say Joseph is friendly. Host families tend to prefer outgoing students, but I always get this feedback, and it's okay to say a student is quiet. Like, I think it's all in the context. So it's all about how you say it. We want to keep it positive without, you know, lying. We want to make sure that the family has a good picture of what the student is like. But there are other ways to say, you know, the student is extremely shy. You can also focus on kind of just the other things about the student, because the family eventually, when they are interested in the student, they'll read the additional material. So they'll know, you know, they'll get to read the host family letter, the statement, all of that. So for now, you know, this is just kind of a teaser, if you will. And embrace adjectives like this. And if you need more, like I'm always looking up like cinnamon for, and yeah, so Jody said some families are quiet and would appreciate a quiet student, or they have their own shy kids and know how to coach them. Exactly. So we don't necessarily want to say, no, don't ever say a student is quiet. We just want to make sure we're portraying the student accurately while being positive. And again, like reach out if you have trouble wording something in a right, like I'm just not sure how to word this in a positive way. We can help with that for sure. Again, no identifying information. We always say don't say the student's favorite activity is shopping. It kind of comes off wrong. You can say the student enjoys shopping. I think that there's nothing wrong with that, or enjoys like fashion. Maybe adding some context is more of what we're looking for. We just want to avoid things like the student loves shopping and can't wait to shop in the US, because families are probably going to be like, ugh, are all they doing shopping? Hopefully not. Video games can be used or seen as antisocial, but I think that it's all about the balance. So I've seen many bios that are awesome and indicate that the student likes video games. These are high school students. They like video games. And I think it's okay to say that because again, that could be a shared interest. Families with kids or, just families might like video games. So it's all in how you write the bio.
But
And
if they like video games, then you can go into like, they enjoy playing video games, but they also enjoy like basketball or what, something that they see that it's not just video games,
exactly.
but they also enjoy other sports.
Exactly. It's all about that balance. And so these are some sample bio leads, and I provided more in the presentation, so I'm definitely going to share this out very quickly. So tomorrow you'll have the recording and this presentation. But it's just great to have some examples because I think you can draw from that. And I won't go through all of these, but I did want to just mention a few. So with a passion for music and dance. So this is great because it's not starting immediately with the typical like Ellen is now going and positive young lady. Instead, you kind of start with that teaser language indicating an interest. Friendly, hardworking, and creative are just a few of the words to describe Anne Katrine. It's a good way to mix it up. A lot of bio writers, and this is also fine, start with meet Teresa, an outgoing and highly motivated student from Austria, or like meet this student. I like that language. Just make sure to alternate it with other language as well. And the closing sentence is honestly also very important. Again, we're not doing regionally specific or area team specific now. But these are some closing like endings that you could use, or maybe you have better ones, but I always feel like the last sentence is almost the hardest because you're either trying to fill a character count or don't have enough space. So there's different ways to kind of phrase this ending. But again, if you need help, let us know. We can provide more samples. So let's review writing a student bio. So you'd find their application in Global Link or MyAFS. You'd read their student application, especially these specific items. And from this, hopefully you'd be taking some notes while you reviewed, and you're noting kind of what bio tags you can add. And then you're writing the bio summary in the bio summary section, and then you're saving it. Your name will be recorded, as will the approver's name. So we do know if like it was approved and we're like, oh, we didn't know that was approved yet. Like we can follow up with people in case there is any confusion, or like Terry was talking about, if someone was writing a bio that they weren't assigned. I did just get a question. What do you think about ending with she's anxious to learn English? Don't most students come to learn English? Yeah, I think there's a way to maybe rephrase that, but I think it is okay to reemphasize that the student is interested in language and is really excited to practice English in person, like with her host family. I think it's all in how you say it, but yes, that kind of is a given that they want to learn English. So maybe it's just rephrasing that. So this is an example of a good bio. I think I always use Emmanuel. It was just a good example, but Emmanuel is an athletic and friendly young man from central Argentina. He has an older brother and sister, and they live with their mom and her husband. Emmanuel's all-time favorite sport is basketball, and he practices 6 times a week. Then it lists out a few different like unique interests, like various types of puzzles. That's really cool. Favorite classes, teachers say that he's attentive and responsible, and he's looking forward to coming to the US. So this is an example of kind of a locally specific ending that we would replace with just a nationally like applicable ending. But he would be a great fit for, a family interested in basketball and sports, maybe. Complete entry and save. So again, once this entry is saved, we will review the bio, and just make sure that you're also reviewing the tags that you've assigned, and reviewing the bio for grammar and stuff. But then we'll go in once it's saved, we'll go in and approve it. And right now it's being approved by hosting onboarding staff, but the marketing team also has the ability to review and approve, and maybe assisting the hosting onboarding staff in the future. And we're always available for assistance in writing a bio if you need some tips or, you know, are struggling with the writing. Let's see. So here are just a couple more examples. I'm not going to go through them just in the interest of time because I want to make sure we have room for questions. But it is just, I think, good practice to read some bios that were already written, that are kind of were approved, and they might give you ideas for your bios and where to go with questions. So there is a help and learning article on writing student bios, and this recording and the presentation will be added to that article. It's in the place hosted students section, and it's called Write Student Bios and Help and Learning. Amy is the go-to for anything regarding like finding applications, the tags that are available, things that are more logistical about the bio writing. And then if you have any questions about the approvals, about the like the process of approving and reviewing, why one of your bios was, you know, reviewed or revised, you know, any of that can come to marketing@afsusa.org, or my email address is jball@afsusa.org as well. You can definitely reach out to me. I did want to ask Amy if she had anything to add after kind of that last section.
Nope, nothing from my end. Thanks.
Okay. And so right now, if you are interested in being a national bio writer, Terry, can I offer you up as kind of a contact?
You sure can. That's
Awesome.
fine.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely let Terry know. You do have to be, you do have to have those trainings. So I got a couple questions, and definitely reach out to your hosting coordinator or RFS about.
And actually, the trainings are very interesting. I always go on sometimes just to review them a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are very interesting.
Does anyone have any questions or tips? Because I know we have some bio writers that have done this for a long time on the call. So if you have any tips. Oh, Terry's contact. Terry, would you mind sharing your email address in the chat?
Oh boy, oh man, what is my AFS?
I can send it out later.
Yeah, if you can.
Okay.
I think it's terri.windsor, WINDSOR. Is it AFS-VOL? I think whatever the new
AFS.vol.
whatever the new ending is now.
Okay, I'll definitely send it out as well.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
It's so long. And then it changed. I had a different one when I was with the hosting advisory committee, and then it's like then it changed to a different newer one.
Yeah.
There is a question here. It says, when you say if you see something, say something, does that include if there's missing forms, or should we just go to RFS for that? So in this, if you do see a missing form, you can let us know, but a majority of the time is that we already have reviewed the application already, and we already seen the missing form, and we already in contact with the partner in regards of that missing form. So, but if you do see it, you're not sure if we have, maybe we missed it in our review, you could feel free to either let the RFS know, or you can let myself know, and I can let you know, yes, we are already aware of that. We already told the partners, but a good chunk of the time we wouldn't, what we say in our system, in our process, we wouldn't or distribute a student without the key documents that they need. And we have like specific key documents that we need in order to distribute the student application while they work on the rest of the sections while they're looking for a place, while everyone is looking for a placement for that student. So yeah. Hope that answers that question.
We have another question. Can bio writers flag when the student's last name is on their host family letter? I've seen a number that have their last name on their letters.
If you do see the last name, usually we try to catch it on N2, but we're humans, we make mistakes and sometimes we miss it. Or yes, the city name as well. Yes, please let us know. You can always send it to the USA Hosting Operations inbox. So any of these requests will go to the USA Hosting Operations inbox, and there we will be able to let the partners know this needs to be removed or added, or whatever request may come through from there. Or you could also let your RFS know and they'll send us the request as well.
Thanks, Amy.
It's better, yeah, it's better to go to your RFS and then for them to come to us, if that's the case.
Okay.
I think Maureen posted my email address.
I saw that, yeah.
Thank you, Maureen.
Awesome.
No problem.
Well, yeah, I hope this was informative. If there are any other questions, let us know. I did want to just point out to you at the end of this presentation, there are some additional samples if you were curious or wanted to, and these are, kind of older. So if you see anything, let us know. But I thought the more examples, the better. So feel free to use some of these or let them guide you. But there are some like originals and some of the edits that we've made in the past.
Since I missed the beginning of this, can you email this to me so I can see what I missed in the beginning?
Yes. Yep. It will
Okay.
be emailed. I'll email it out to everyone. I'll also add it to the Help and Learning article and post it to my AFS News. So
Thank
you'll
you.
definitely get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't expect to get a call from about our first baby.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's so exciting. And congrats
I
on your
know.
job, Terry. And thanks so much for just your continued work. It's very much appreciated.
You're welcome. I'm actually looking for a semester student.
Woo,
So
that's
it's like,
That's
when they're
awesome.
coming in, I'm like, okay, is there any semesters students? But I want to get a boy because every other weekend I actually have my nephew stay
Okay.
with me. He's in high school, and every
Okay.
other week he comes to me instead of his mother. So
Okay,
I was
perfect.
like, and so the boy would be sharing a bedroom with him. So it's like, it
Okay.
has to be a boy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now that I know, make sure to keep a mental,
Me too.
Yes, please.
think about it and a mental know about it, and we'll make sure to let the RFS know for you. That
Oh
we
yeah,
have
and
fun
especially if you
moving.
happen to see one, just shoot it off to me right away. So I
Yeah,
know.
will do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Terry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
thank you.
welcome.
Awesome.
I had a semester student once before from Austria, and
Aw.
that was, oh my gosh, my nephew's 16, I think. So it was like 13 years ago. And he went back to Austria, got a double master's, and he's now a college professor.
Oh my
We
God.
still
That's awesome.
stay in touch with him a lot.
I love
I stay in
those
touch with
stories.
all my students.
I was gonna
My
say,
Italian student moved here. She went
That's-
back home, finished her school year, and she moved here. She's going to the local university. So I
oh
get to
my
see her a
God.
lot too.
I love that. I love those kinds of stories. If they ever want to share their story, let me know, Terry.
Oh,
I really
I
do.
should send you the article that was in the news in the Youngstown Business Journal
Please
about
do.
her.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was a beautiful article. And she unfortunately was with another family that somehow slipped through the cracks. Stuff that we just didn't see in that. And she almost literally packed up and went back home. And
Okay.
I took her in. And then she was only here 2.5 months at that point. And I took her in. And it was the
Everything
greatest thing
changed.
ever. And now she went back home, finished school there, and she's in her second year of college now here in the States.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
I love that. Turn it around. Turn it
Oh,
around.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So I get to see her at the holidays and stuff like that even. She has a boyfriend that she lives with, so.
That's so cool. I love those
Great.
stories. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
well, thank you guys so much. I think that brings us to the end, but yeah, if anyone does have questions, just let me know. Oh, and when I first hosted students were not allowed to return. That's not that. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. Amy, do you know if students are permitted to return like after having like their visa, like being on their exchange? Oh, Susan, we can't hear you.
Sorry, what was the question again?
It depends on the country and the restrictions
Okay.
that
if they can come back after their exchange year. There's just a question about
Oh, yeah.
What kind of
Um,
schools have you been on? What the requirements are from their own countries?
Yeah, it depends and also, yeah, they just have to make sure that they, share all the type of visas they were on. And they have to come with a tourist visa or an ESTA, wherever they're coming from their country. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So yeah.
Okay.
We've got a Colombian that we hosted that is currently he got his doctorate in pharmacy here, and he's currently living in Phoenix, Arizona, and he has 2 kids, one named after me and one named after my husband.
No way. That's the biggest compliment. That's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, that is so sweet.
Goals.
That's so nice. I love hearing stories like this.
I know. It's amazing.
I've got to ask, why just a semester?
Terry. She
So,
might have been called
I
off.
tell people the length of the value of the experience is determined by the quality, not the length.
Yeah. That is very true. I think Terry dropped off, so we'll
yeah,
have
I
to
think
ask
she
her.
left already.
Maybe we'll just send her year students, Amy.
Right.
Are you sure? Not
These look great. These sound great. Yeah.
all right. Well, thank
Alright.
you everyone for joining. Really appreciate your time, especially, and for your willingness to write bios. And I will be sharing out this material tomorrow. So stay tuned, and hopefully others are also able to tune in via the recording. So thank you so much and have a good night.
Okay, good seeing you.
Thank you
Take care.
all.
Bye.